The silent regret. Have you ever stopped to think about why so many men regret dating after 50? Data shows that the number of divorces among men over 50 has doubled in the last decade. And it's no coincidence. What should be a phase of peace, stability, and freedom turns into an emotional minefield, full of demands, wear and tear, and loss of identity. The truth that no one dares to say is simple. Most men at this age get into relationships that only suck them dry. What they call companionship is, in practice, the silent end of their autonomy. If you are in this age group or heading towards it, stop everything and listen carefully. Because today, you will discover 9 brutal reasons why mature men are choosing freedom instead of the emotional prison disguised as romance. These reasons can save your sanity, your money, and your life. You have spent decades building who you are. You fought, you worked, you overcame. And now, when you finally have resources, stability, and wisdom, someone wants to convince you that you need to share all of this with someone who didn't build anything by your side. That you need to prove your worth to someone who only showed up when everything was ready. Before continuing, tell me in the comments, how old are you, and where are you watching from? And if you have already been through a relationship that drained you after 40, subscribe to the channel now. Because what you are going to hear here is not cheap romanticism, it's raw reality. Let's start. Reason 1. You are her plan B. Most men over 50 enter a relationship thinking they have found a mature, stable partner ready to experience something light. But the reality is that often this woman has already played the whole game. She got married, separated, had children, lived adventures, and now she wants stability. Stability that you represent. Not because she admires you, but because she needs a safe harbor at the end of the party. You become the step, the reliable shoulder, the guy who listens, pays for dinners, accepts other people's children, and still feels grateful to be there. It's cruel to think like that, but many men are used as a consolation prize for an unresolved past. And you know what's worse? Most don't even realize it. They think they are being chosen when in reality they are being tolerated. She has already fallen in love for real. She has already been burned by men she intensely desired. Now all she wants is predictability. A man who doesn't excite her so much, but who is there, available, submissive. The problem? You are confusing peace with passivity, love with accommodation. You are not her first choice. You are the safe choice. And when a man accepts this role, he completely sabotages himself. He loses his shine, loses his value, loses his respect. Because she knows she is with a man who has accepted being plan B. And no one truly respects someone who accepts less than they deserve. The woman who sees you as plan B will never treat you as a priority. She will demand attention, presence, patience, but will not offer you desire, admiration, or true surrender. You will be a functional, useful, convenient, even affectionate boyfriend, but never essential. And over time, this turns into resentment. You start to feel that something is wrong, but you can't name it. The truth is that you are living in the role of an extra in her life and convincing yourself that this is love. But true love doesn't put you in the background, and much less turns you into an emotional prisoner. Men over 50 should be reaping the rewards, not becoming an emotional crutch for a frustrated woman. But out of neediness, fear of loneliness, or vanity, many throw themselves into unbalanced relationships, thinking they are starting over. They are not. They are repeating cycles of emotional submission disguised as maturity. Reason 2. She wants your money, not your company. After 50, most men have already achieved some financial stability. Own house, paid off car, good retirement, or fixed income. And this, for some women, sounds louder than any talk about love. They don't want a partner. They want an immediate provider. You enter the relationship in good faith, wanting company. She enters with calculation. How much can this man offer me? And we are not just talking about direct money. We are talking about comfort, status, trips, restaurants, and even favors for her family. Little by little, you start to realize that you are paying for more than you should. But you are already too involved to back down. And when you try to cut back, the emotional blackmail comes. You've changed. Now you're stingy. You weren't like that before. This type of woman doesn't want to build you up. She wants to consume you, You become a kind of walking credit card and don't even realize it. Every weekend there is a new expense, a new need, an urgent problem that only you can solve. And the worst part, all disguised as affection. She knows how to make you feel important while emptying you inside and out. There is no true reciprocity. You pay for everything and still hear that this is the least a mature man does. Affection comes conditioned to your usefulness. And when you stop being useful, the affection disappears. The relationship becomes a bill to pay. And every month she charges more emotional interest. She doesn't love you. She manages you. She controls your schedules, your decisions, and even your friendships. After all, you are her investment. And like any investment, she wants a return. Gifts, favors, stability, and control. You are no longer a free man. You are a supplier, disguised as a boyfriend. And when you start to realize and take a stand, she accuses you of being selfish, cold, or insensitive to her needs. All of this is part of the psychological game, keeping you confused, guilty, and obedient. You need to understand one thing. Generosity without criteria becomes exploitation. It's not wrong to want to take care. The problem is being used. And at 50 and over, you no longer have time to waste with people who only want what you have, and not who you are. Reason 3. She doesn't want a partner. She wants control. There is a very common illusion among mature men. The idea that after 40 or 50, women are more balanced, calmer, and ready to experience something healthy. But the reality is that many of them, instead of maturing, have become more controlling and inflexible. They are not looking for a companion to add to their lives. They are looking for a man who fits perfectly into the rules they impose. You don't enter the relationship as an individual. You enter as a project. She wants to mold you, correct you, improve you. And what was supposed to be an exchange between two adults turns into a disguised fight for emotional territory. Every decision, every routine, every conversation needs to pass through her sieve. The truth is that many mature women don't want a partner. They want an emotional subordinate. She comes from traumas, from disappointments, from relationships where she felt powerless, and now she wants to compensate by bossing you around. You can't disagree. You can't have your own routine. You can't have individual space. Everything needs to be approved, justified, negotiated. And if you assert yourself, she accuses you of being authoritarian, macho, or insensitive. She plays with modern discourse, but deep down she is seeking a position of total control within the relationship. And the worst part, all of this is done subtly, in small concessions that become a pattern. You start by giving in on simple things. A restaurant she prefers, a schedule she imposes, a trip she decides. After a while, you realize that your life has been hijacked. She decides where you go, who you hang out with, what is right or wrong. You find yourself silent, passive, accepting things you would never accept before, and the worst part, thinking that this is a sign of maturity or commitment. But it's not. Maturity is not giving in to everything. It's weakness masked as peace. Reason 4. You lose your freedom. One of the greatest values that a man conquers after 50 is freedom. Freedom of time, of thought, of routine, of choices. But what many don't realize is that when entering a relationship at this stage, this freedom begins to slip through their fingers. And what comes in its place? An avalanche of small obligations disguised as care, partnership, and commitment. You realize that your schedules are no longer yours, that your trips depend on her approval, that your Sundays already have a fixed itinerary. Without realizing it, you go back to living as if you were 30 years old, but now with much less patience and much more demand. The problem is that, unlike a young relationship, where everything is new, at this stage the routine turns into demand in record time. You no longer have that energy to adapt to other people's wishes every day. But she expects that. She expects you to always be available, always attentive, always willing to be part of her world. And if you try to maintain some personal space, the accusation comes, you are cold. You don't want to build anything with me. Little by little, you find yourself saying yes more than you would like to avoid frictions that wear you out even more. But every yes you give against your will is another brick in the wall of your frustration. And here comes the most dangerous point. The man begins to repress himself to maintain peace. He stops going out with friends, practicing hobbies, having his moments of silence. He molds himself to her expectations and forgets his own identity. Until one day, he looks in the mirror and no longer recognizes who he is. Worse, he realizes that he can no longer make decisions without consulting someone. And this, for a mature man, is suffocating. It's a type of prison that comes with the scent of romance. Reason 5. You are at your peak, she is in decline. There is a lie repeated so many times that many men begin to believe it, that over time they lose value and women gain wisdom. But the reality is exactly the opposite. At 50 and over, a man enters the peak of his social and emotional attractiveness. You have maturity, resources, posture, and above all, freedom. Things that 25-year-old boys don't have. The problem? Many men don't realize this. They still see themselves as if they were at a disadvantage, begging for attention. Meanwhile, women who have already lived several phases begin to compete for the few mature men available, and they use manipulation, charm, and neediness to trap you in a role of effective savior. The woman who reaches 50 with accumulated frustrations knows that time is not in her favor. She has lost part of the power of seduction she had in her youth, but still carries the expectation of being treated as if she were the only option. Therefore, she will try to compensate in demand, in requirement, and in emotional manipulation. She needs to convince you that you need her, that being with her is a great opportunity, and if you are emotionally unprepared, you will fall for this narrative and accept a relationship where only one side has to prove its worth. You will be tested all the time while she acts as if she is doing you a favor. But stop and think, why you who have conquered so much still feel obliged to prove yourself. Perhaps because no one taught you that a mature man is a valued man, not disposable. You don't need to accept any relationship just because you are alone. You don't need to prove anything to someone who doesn't even know how to recognize who you are. The problem is that many mature men still carry insecurities from their youth and end up surrendering to women who know how to exploit this. The game changes when you understand that true power lies in choosing, not in begging for attention. Reason 6. She lives in constant drama. After decades of working, fighting, raising children, or overcoming problems, all that is expected is a lighter phase.
But when you get involved with the wrong woman, what should be calm turns into an emotionally unstable field. Small matters turn into big discussions. The climate is never constant. Everything depends on her mood, her needs, and her insecurities. And what was supposed to be a mature partnership turns into an emotional soap opera with daily chapters. And you are always the villain. Does she feel neglected? It's your fault. Does she feel insecure? It's because you don't pay attention.
There is always a new drama waiting for you. In the beginning, you even try to understand. You pay attention, listen, try to dialogue. But over time, you realize that no matter how hard you try, it is never enough. She needs constant crisis to feel alive. She needs emotional chaos to feel in control. And you, little by little, begin to feel drained. The strong, centered, and mature man gives way to a reactive and exhausted subject. You live walking on eggshells, avoiding triggers you didn't even know existed. And you realize that you are in an emotional war against someone who says they love you. Many men don't realize that they are trapped in a cycle of emotional dependence. She creates a problem, generates tension, then makes peace as if it were a prize. This cycle is addictive. You start to think that this is the natural pattern of a relationship, but it's not. This is subtle emotional abuse, a psychological game that traps you in wear and tear and prevents you from thinking clearly. You no longer have mental peace. You can't focus on your projects, and you start to lose the taste for your own routine. Everything revolves around avoiding her next emotional collapse. And here is the truth that few dare to say: the woman who lives in drama doesn't want a solution. She wants attention. She doesn't want to resolve conflicts. She wants to feed the cycle, because this puts her in the center. And if you don't participate in the show, she accuses you of being cold, absent, or insensitive. You can't stay centered because she feeds on your imbalance. And when you finally explode, she uses this as proof that you are the problem. Reason 7. She accelerates your aging. Few people talk about this, but there is a direct link between chronic emotional stress and accelerated aging. And you know where this stress lives? In unbalanced, tense, and demanding relationships. At 50 or 60, your body and mind no longer have the same resistance as before. Everything you live, including the emotional part, has a deeper and more lasting impact. And when you get involved with a woman who demands too much, complains all the time and lives in imbalance, the result is one: wear and tear. You sleep less, get irritated more, lose focus, and even feel your body heavier. This type of toxic relationship doesn't destroy all at once. It corrodes little by little. You start to feel constant fatigue, pains that didn't exist before, and a generalized loss of energy. Your vital energy goes away, replaced by a state of constant alert. And all of this doesn't come from work, nor from age. It comes from the woman who is by your side. Because she doesn't add, she sucks. And the price of this is a silent, internal aging. While you should be living with lightness, you are just surviving. And there's more. Many men, when they enter a stressful relationship, abandon themselves. They stop training, taking care of their diet, maintaining healthy habits. Emotional tension steals motivation. The routine becomes a burden. That man who used to like to take care of himself, to go out, to renew himself, begins to wither emotionally. The reflection appears in the mirror. More marked wrinkles, a more tired expression, a dull look. And he doesn't even realize that the root of all this is the woman he insists on keeping by his side. Relationship shouldn't make you sick. It should heal you. But for this there needs to be harmony, mutual admiration, and above all, mental peace. Without peace, your body lives in a state of defense. Your mind doesn't rest. Your soul doesn't express itself. And the result is an aging that goes far beyond appearance. You lose shine, lose motivation, lose clarity. And little by little you stop being you and turn into a shadow of the man you could be. Reason 8. She demands total emotional availability. Many mature men enter a relationship believing that they will find a woman with emotional baggage and maturity. But what happens frequently is the opposite. They end up next to emotionally needy, unstable, and demanding women. And the role she expects you to play is not that of a partner. It's that of a therapist, motivator, counselor, and on top of that, always available. She wants a man who is emotionally 100% available to listen, welcome, resolve, and endure everything all the time. It doesn't matter if you had a bad day, if you are tired, or if you don't want to talk. She demands total emotional presence, and any sign of your tiredness is read as coldness, rejection, or lack of love. This type of demand creates an invisible but powerful wear and tear. You can't fail. You can't be silent. You can't retreat. She transforms your emotional presence into a personal fuel. If you are well, she is well. If you are silent, she goes into crisis. And this makes you become a kind of emotional support column for her life. But no one can support another person emotionally every day, all the time. You start to feel guilty for not always being in control of her emotional situation. And there is an even more perverse detail. She never takes responsibility for her own imbalances. There is always an external reason: work, children, ex-husband, tiredness, anxiety. But you are the only one who needs to be strong all the time. She demands resilience from you, but doesn't offer balance. She demands support, but doesn't give support. You become an unpaid psychologist, an emotional caregiver, who doesn't even have space to take care of himself. And all of this disguised as companionship. Reason 9. You lose your identity. You have already worked enough. You have already lived the social pressures. You have already had to please others for decades. Now should be the moment to live for yourself. Do what you like, go where you want, say what you think with total freedom. But when you enter a relationship with the wrong woman, all of this goes away silently. Because she doesn't just want to be with you. She wants to occupy all your space of time, energy, and attention. And you start to realize that your life is no longer yours. She doesn't understand that at this stage you value silence more than empty conversations. She doesn't understand that for you to be at peace is more valuable than being right. So any choice of yours that doesn't include her becomes a reason for conflict. Want to travel alone? Selfishness. Want to stay quiet on the weekend? Indifference. Want to say no to an invitation? Disregard. Everything is interpreted as rejection because what she really wants is to possess your time as if it were hers. And little by little you realize that you are living under emotional surveillance. After 50, the game changes. Time accelerates. Priorities become clearer. And that's precisely why you can no longer enter relationships with the same naivety as before. The wrong woman at this stage not only delays your life, she consumes you from within. You lose energy, lose focus, lose years trying to adapt to someone who will never respect you as a man. All in the name of a company that, in practice, costs you freedom, health, and identity. But the truth is simple and brutal. If the price of the relationship is losing yourself, it was never worth it. You need to understand that not being with someone is not failure. It's emotional intelligence. Today, millions of men live better alone than poorly accompanied. They travel, they undertake, they take care of themselves, they live with lightness. They do what they want without justifying themselves to anyone. While others, trapped in a romantic idea of having someone by their side, spend the best years putting out other people's emotional fires. It's not loneliness to be alone. Loneliness is being with someone who makes you feel invisible. And at 50 or 60, you no longer have time to play this game. What you need now is not a girlfriend. It's self-respect, emotional clarity, and full freedom. You need peace, purpose, direction. You need to reconnect with your essence, with your plans, with your masculine strength. The world is still there for you, full of experiences, achievements, friendships, passions, and freedom. But everything starts with a decision. Stop giving your life to those who don't know what to do with it. And when you do that, true masculine value blossoms. If any of these 9 points made sense to you, leave a comment with the phrase, "My freedom comes first." Subscribe to the channel now, because here we tell the truth that no one dares to say. Stay on the screen. The next video is already appearing, and it will further deepen what you have just learned. The power has always been within you. You just needed to wake up. Now, go and be the free man you were born to be.